we have been listening to authorities updating us on the death of Prince. That was Carver County Sheriff Jim Olson. He has told us that the autopsy has been completed, but it could take several weeks before the results are in. He went on record saying there was no obvious signs of trauma to the body. He did kind of go over the timeline a little bit. We now know that Prince was last seen Wednesday night at 8 o'clock at Paisley Park after a staff member dropped him off. The following day on Thursday, when staff members could not reach him, they went over to check on him. A 911 call was made at 9:43. Authorities responded and found Prince unresponsive in an elevator. He was pronounced dead shortly after at 10:07. The sheriff also said there is no signs that this was a suicide. He would not respond whether foul play was involved or whether medication was found or was taken from the scene. The sheriff wanted to stress that it has only been 29 hours since this happened. Our CBS News correspondent Dean Reynolds was in that press conference. Dean, I heard you ask the sheriff, we know he was a private person, but was he a healthy person?
Right. Well, and he didn't really want to go in that direction. I think one of the main things that I got out of this was that there's no reason to believe that suicide was involved, no signs of trauma, which would have suggested maybe foul play, and the fact that he apparently died alone in this huge complex on the first floor inside the elevator. Kind of a poignant admission by the sheriff that there really was nobody around him, and that he was discovered after staffers at Paisley Point, his residence, had tried to make contact with him for several hours and had not been able to, which would suggest there was no security at the place, and that they must have gone there in search of him, and then they found him. There were 3 of them on the scene at the time, said the sheriff.
I heard you asking also if that was unusual for Prince to be alone there in such a huge residence, and they said no, it wasn't.
Yeah, I found that to be a little unusual. I mean, he's a world recording star. You would think that there would be some security around his residence and his recording studio, if not only to protect the property as well as himself. But you heard the sheriff, he said no, that was not unusual for him to spend the night alone in his place.
You see, you know, as we are getting an update now on the death of Prince, a few things to note. We've seen a series of canceled shows from Prince that report of an emergency plane landing after his concert in Atlanta, and a subdued hometown appearance just recently, so raising all these questions about whether he was hiding health problems from his fans. Have you heard anything more about his appearance and how he looked at the last concert that he just held there at Paisley Park?
Well, those who were in attendance at the last dance party said that he looked pale, and they used the word frail as well. You put that together with the medical emergency, the plane having to land in Moline, Illinois, en route to Minneapolis, and the urgency of that stop. I mean, it's only 300 miles by plane from Moline to Minneapolis, so there must have been some serious event on that plane. In fact, we know that it was described as an unresponsive male. So all of this leads up to his demise, obviously, because we know that he was not doing well, that people who saw him lately described him, like I say, frail and pale. So I think the signs of trouble were certainly there. And then that enigmatic thing that he had to say to the crowd, like, don't waste your prayers now. I can't imagine what the effect of that was on the crowd.
Right. What happens now? They mentioned that it could take several weeks before the results of the autopsy is released. And what happens next with that?
Well, that's it. I mean, they're going to be doing the toxicology tests to see what was in his bloodstream. The investigation will go through the stuff that they found in the house. Whether it leads them in any direction, we can't say because the sheriff didn't want to get into that. A search warrant will be issued. But this is all sort of under the umbrella of very normal, very usual kind of investigating. They said it is a high-profile case for them and that 3 or 4 agencies, along with a battery of detectives, are involved in this. But again, we come back to the fact that they are just going through this very methodically without any hint of something untoward
All right.
surrounding his death.
Dean Reynolds for us in Minneapolis. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.